Welcome back, guys. It's spooky season, it's the end of the month, Halloween. If you are watching this on Halloween, I just wanted to tell you, Happy Halloween. So, this video is rather late. I was gonna do it last night, but honestly, I procrastinated, as usual. Like I do with everything. With that being said, however, I decided that it's time for me to tell you about my paranormal experiences. Many of you have been looking forward to this video, and I don't blame you. These paranormal experiences range from just basic things to even creepier experiences. So with that being said, turn down those lights, curl up in a blanket, grab a snack, and don't look behind you. So the first paranormal experience I have starts when I am about 5 or 6. Now, when I was younger, I would spend the night at Mama's every now and again. This was not something I didn't like. Grandma lived in an old house surrounded by a bunch of woods. My grandma and grandpa, or as I call them, Mama and Papa, would have me sleep in the living room on the couch. My mama had this big old comfy couch. Even though the house had a strange energy to it, there was nothing much I didn't feel that I was in any danger. Now, I originally attained feeling of being watched, simply to just me being paranoid. But I remember this night vividly, and many nights like it. One night I'm laying on the couch facing the wall. The window behind me has light shining through it, obviously, from the outside light. I don't think much of it, and like I've always been a night owl, this doesn't really bother me. I wouldn't dare wake Mama or Papa, but I would continuously stare at the wall as I tried to fall asleep. However, something caught my attention. Originally, it starts from out of the corner of my eye. I thought I saw the shadow of someone. Until eventually the shadow or silhouette walks around. I can see it on the wall. First there's one, but then other shadow figures continue to walk across the wall. At first I think it's coming from outside, and I slowly turn to look outside. However, nothing is there. No one is outside. So that would mean these shadow figures, these shadow people, they must be inside the house. Being anxious and too afraid to speak, I proceed to pull my blanket tighter and clutch it, and hide under my blanket. I poke my face out every now and again to see the shadow figures just walking around. However, they eventually, after a while, disappear. I had told my mom about this on many occasions. My mom would always brush it off as saying, "Oh, you probably just had a dream." But I know what I saw. Years later, I talked with my cousins about it, as they spent the night a lot at my mama's as well. They agreed that not only did they see shadow figures, or shadow people, they also found that their dolls would constantly be moved out of position. And even Taylor and Shelby originally attoned it to them, each one of them messing with each other. But the thing was, they swear up and down that it is a shadow figure. Even as an adult, my cousin Taylor has verified that, yeah, a shadow figure does lurk around there. Sometimes it runs around the corner. Now, this isn't the scariest one, but it's the one that started when I was the youngest. The next paranormal experience occurs around the time I'm 9 or 10. I had went down to Mississippi. I had been staying with some relatives, and they lived in a nice little house. It was in a small town. I can't remember what small town it was, but I had stayed with them. Well, it was a nice little house. It had 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and, well, the main bedroom was upstairs. That was the bedroom I would often sleep in as a kid during the summer. So around that age, I noticed something was off about the house immediately. There were times where I would hear footsteps, disembodied whispers, and at one point, I went to grab something and I felt what felt like a hand touching my arm. I had ran out of that room screaming bloody murder. I assumed a spider had climbed on me or something. In Mississippi, the bugs are relentless there during the summer. However, we found no trace of any spiders or anything. However, I just brushed it off originally as me possibly being paranoid, as I had never been away from home for that long. It wasn't until one night I was sleeping in the bed upstairs. This bed was a full-size bed and had two nightstands with 2 table lamps. These lamps were not the type that you just touch and they turn on. These are the older lamps where you have to twist the thing until it clicks to turn on the lamp. However, I remember one night I am sleeping on my side, not paying much attention to anything around me, obviously, as I'm dead asleep. So, something wakes me. The lamp on the opposite side of the bed is on. Confused, I kind of wake up. But that's not what completely makes me wake up. Not only was the lamp on, but I hear a labored breathing. Pretty much heavy breathing, like someone was struggling to breathe. This confused me and freaked me out greatly, as no one else should have been in my room. I proceed to turn over, and what I see makes me freeze. A white silhouette of what appears to be a tall man is laying on what should have been an empty space by me. I see the figure and freeze up upon looking at it. The figure turns its head towards me, continuing to breathe in a pained way, before looking back up at the ceiling. In confusion, I proceed to look up at the ceiling, seeing a dark, shadowy figure fade into it before disappearing. Very confused by this phenomenon, I immediately panic and look back to where the figure was laying. However, the figure was no longer there. There were still wrinkles and there was a head mark in the pillow. These feather pillows that were part of the bed always leave really heavy head indentions if they're not fluffed, meaning someone had been laying there, or something. To this day, I still don't know who or what that was. I don't know what the thing going into the ceiling was. I don't know why that man or silhouette was there. All I know is it wasn't sleep paralysis and I saw it. Now, a few years later, around age 12 or 13, I'm on Skype with my friend. A friend we will refer to as their username, Sick Boy. So, during 2012 or so, around age 12 and 13, I really did a lot of fan fiction writing and was on DeviantArt. Cringe and make fun of me all you want. However, that was my hobby. Back when I was on DeviantArt, I did a lot of writing, and I interacted with a lot of people and met a lot of people that way. One of those friends I met was Sick Boy. However, because of that, I would often Skype with other people. Skype, if for those of you who use Discord, Skype was one of the main video chatting things you used back in 2012. It was actually a major popular thing before Discord became popular. Now, there were flaws with Skype. Skype did not have good connectivity and would often glitch out or lose connection easily. One day, Sick Boy and I are talking over Skype. Eventually, Sick Boy says he has to grab something from the kitchen. He planned on grabbing some hot Cheetos. I didn't think much of it. I asked if we should disconnect the webcam or not, because reconnecting the webcam after disconnecting or hanging up was very difficult with the way Skype worked. So, after a little bit, I'm sitting there and I told them to leave the webcam on. We agreed to leave the webcam running. I proceed to wait for Sick Boy. Now, as Sick Boy is getting his hot Cheetos from the kitchen, I can hear him in the background talking to his parents. Nothing major. I can hear things being rummaged around, and not much else. I proceed to just send some text and text my mother and tell her I'm okay, and kind of just not think much of it. That is until I hear crying. Not just any old crying. The sound of what appears to be a small child, sobbing, crying hysterically. This obviously catches me off guard. My brother, who was a toddler at the time, is not home. My mom and her boyfriend are out, and my sister is with her friends. This is unsettling, to say the least. At first, I think it's coming from the TV, as my brother would often leave Netflix running. Movies on the Wii would be running on Netflix. I proceed to turn to the TV, only to find the "Are you still watching" icon on the TV. So the crying wasn't coming from the TV. In confusion, I keep looking around, and I poke my head out the window of the trailer. Maybe one of the kids outside was crying? There were no kids outside. My blood runs cold when I realize it must be coming from the other side of the video chat. I proceed to take my finger and click the mute button on the keyboard. The crying is no longer going on. The crying was coming from the other side. However, the thing that didn't make any sense was that Sick Boy didn't have younger siblings. So who or what was crying? I proceed to unmute and continue to hear it, thinking maybe I'm just imagining it. Why would a small child be crying? I thought. Eventually, Sick Boy returns to his desk and sits down with his bag of hot Cheetos, opening them. He begins to greet me. I proceed to stop him before he can continue talking and say, "Nathan, why? Why do I hear crying?" Nathan looks at me perplexed, before looking shocked. The next thing Nathan says sends chills down my spine. "You hear it too," he says. "Yes, I hear it. Tell me, who is crying? Why are they crying? What do you mean you can hear it too?" I say with fear in my voice. Of course, Nathan sighs and turns the webcam towards the window. What I see makes my blood run cold. There is a silhouette of a small child at the window, a transparent figure. The next thing that occurs scares me even more. The figure stops crying and proceeds to giggle. The silhouette of what must have been a 5-year-old girl stands in the window before disappearing. I let Nathan know that I can definitely see the figure. that it was definitely there. I had asked him how long that figure had been there and how long it had been doing that. Nathan simply shrugged and stated he was used to it, and this wasn't the only weird things that occurred in his house. The thing is, we still don't know why that ghost child was there, why the heck I could see it on webcam, and why I heard it crying. Why did it giggle when I acknowledged it? To this day, we still talked about it, and it's still very perplexing. The next story I'm going to tell is a fairly recent one. This occurs in 2016. This was shortly after my step-grandmother died. We had been staying in our house as we were homeless and she had just passed away. At one point, I ended up making something. Now, the microwave was broken and there wasn't much food left in her fridge. I made a hot dog and it must have been sitting there for a while and gotten really gross, because when I took a bite out of it, it was nasty. Now, my step-grandmother had this thing about anyone criticizing food in her house or criticizing her cooking in general. I spat out the hot dog and said out loud, "Ugh, this is disgusting." The minute I said that, the nearby bathroom door slammed shut. There was no breeze. I honestly believe that she was mad about it. I think her spirit haunts that house. My stepdad also heard disembodied footsteps, so I think she haunts that house now. So, the next one is a lot more recent. This happened back in about 2019. We had been living in this house for a while. We had a mortgage on this house. Now, something really creepy occurred a while back. Two experiences stuck out to me. As we speak, I'm becoming a little anxious talking about it, because I think she tends to acknowledge that I'm talking about the paranormal. So, this all starts when we first move here. I hear disembodied footsteps every now and again, but nothing I can prove. Until one night I'm laying on my bed. I'm facing the wall, trying to sleep. My blanket is not up near my neck like it usually is. Well, it's around 3 a.m. and I'm staring at the wall, trying to fall asleep, until I start to hear disembodied footsteps, and they're coming closer to my bed. At first I freeze, thinking a robber might have came in. If a robber is in my house, I should probably stay still and pretend to sleep, right? That way, if they have a weapon, they're less likely to attack me. So, it gets worse from there. The footsteps eventually stop, and I feel the weight on my bed shift, as if someone's sitting next to me on the bed. The next part sends chills down my spine. I feel something pull my blanket up further on me, and then pat my arm, before rubbing my arm and then getting up and leaving. This freaked me out to no end. Who was that? Why did they do that? I come to find out about few months later, that there was a lady who used to live here and passed away. I have the master bedroom, and to be honest, I think it might have been her. However, I can't prove that. One of the worst experiences compared to that is one night I'm attempting to sleep. And I don't know what set this spirit off, why she was so mad, but for some reason, as I'm sitting on the bed, the whole bed and multiple pieces of furniture start shaking. The shaking like it's an earthquake. Not only the shaking occurs, it sounds like someone is stomping their feet, banging on the walls. Everything is shaking. In panic, all I can do is curl up and hug my knees to my chest in panic. I didn't understand what was going on. It wasn't likely an earthquake, as I'm not on a fault line. We live in Indiana. Earthquakes are not common. This continues on for some time until eventually I don't know what to do. I start having anxiety before yelling suddenly, "I get it! You can stop! I acknowledge you! Just stop what you're doing!" Eventually, the whole room goes silent. As the room goes silent, I look around. Everything had stopped shaking. The banging and rattling had stopped. It was over. Since that night, nothing much else has happened. We haven't had any major experiences. It's very creepy, but it wasn't the worst. Those spirits never physically harmed me, but those are my paranormal experiences. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and have a wonderfully spooky Halloween. Stay hydrated. Bye-bye.